All right, here we go. Recording. Good morning, everyone. It is May 13th, 2020. This is Cape and Plymouth Business 360, where we look around our community, pun intended, asking questions in our poll on our website, looking at the results. And this week we have Robbin Orbison from CapeSpace, Amy Dowd from Coastal Marketing Solutions, and Mike Patterson from Good Habits Financial. How was everyone this morning?
Great.
Doing good.
Doing good, Dale.
I feel like everyone's on their first coffee right now, maybe.
A little bit.
Yeah. I am, that's for sure. So,
Not even yet.
yeah, right. We try to get these done in 6 minutes. It doesn't happen. It's okay. It's Cape Cod. We're on, what is that, on Cape time? So
Island time.
Yeah, it's Miller time, right?
Right.
So this week we asked a question on our newsletter, in our poll: which personality trait has helped your business during lockdown? The responses overwhelmingly were flexibility and other. So I don't think we did a great job in giving some options. In the other, they really bucketed into agility, empathy, consistency, and not giving up was a big one. Just keep going. The other options were discipline, that was low, ingenuity, innovation, which is probably similar, curiosity. I've certainly been curious through this whole thing. Humor was up there, and then creativity. So we're just gonna go around, and let's start with Amy. What do you think? What are you seeing out there in terms of flexibility, tips, thoughts about what's happening?
Well, I know I actually responded before I knew I was going to participate, but I knew I had a little bit of trouble choosing which one, because which was most important to me, because I think on any given day it could have been any one of them. I ultimately ended up with humor, because humor is my default mechanism for, dealing with anything that's difficult. So, but certainly any one of these could have been my choice. I think it's one of the things that it's okay to feel what you feel, and on any given day. And if one of those days you're not feeling, you're not feeling very positive, you're not feeling very productive, let's just remember that's okay. It really is. We're all going to have those days during this process, and you just need to go with it. But then you have to break yourself out of that. You can't let that go on for days on end or anything like that. So I'm seeing, people, tilt to what they need, pivot, what they need to do. Once you have sort of the grief process and you accept what's going on, you need to make sure that, you do what you need to do to carry on in business. I know myself, the first week I was, there were a ton of webinars that were going on, and I took that opportunity to, catch up on some things I hadn't had time to really delve into, different topics and things. And then I've been working on some things that I haven't had time, my business, because I work with other businesses and I've been helping them with their messaging, my business always tends to get pushed to the back burner. So for me, I've been working on trying to do more blogging, blog posts, working on starting to set up a, more consistent email. I get everyone else's email out. Mine never happens because it falls into that. So, it does. I understand why people chose flexibility. That was actually my second choice, between humor and flexibility. I just had to learn to go with it and do what I could accomplish and just try to keep pushing forward.
Right. So it sounds like you took that time. There were dips in what you could do in terms of your work, and you took that time to just kind of even out, and just
have
a few laughs along the way.
Indeed, you had to, you really did. And then, there were a couple of days, it took a couple of weeks before I really, started to feel it. And, I took a mental health day here or there, and I watched movies all day. I challenge, but I came out of it. I felt a little more refreshed. And, the other thing I think is that, working from home, and I do this all the time, unless I'm in CapeSpace, is, sometimes you just end up working, almost 24/7, it's always there.
Sure.
So sometimes you really just need to take a break. So, when I felt like that, I did it. And you just have to go with that. But you need to remember that then you need to, you'll feel a little bit more refreshed, and that helps you kind of break out of it too.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. You have to listen to your body and your mind and go with it right now until you can kind of settle into, what this phrase, the new normal that we're hearing. Right?
Absolutely. And
All
when
right,
you have nice days, like we've had for the past few, try to get outside a little bit and enjoy nature. Just watch the birds or whatever, or take a walk. It's all helpful.
Great advice. So let's go to, how about Mike next? There you go. Big smile.
Humor is always something that you should maintain. I totally agree with that. That's, I think, why Amy and I get along so well. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for Amy.
But overall, I might, and it might fall under the heading of flexibility, but I think the word that came to my mind was adaptability. Taking what the situation is and being able to move yourself in a direction where you're just playing by the rules of what the situation dictates. So fortunately for me, I took it as an opportunity to organize stuff. I think everybody has these moments where if there's not enough time in the day, or if only I had more time in the day. This was an opportunity to have that extra time in the day to focus on those things that otherwise you couldn't focus on. So for me, it was something as simple as working on a mailing program that I'm going to be getting out. So adapting to that and being able to focus my time, effort, and energy into doing that. Fortunately for me as well, with a great partner like CapeSpace, where I still have the access to go into the office and utilize the space there because there is nobody there. So it's essentially working from home without being at home. But in all seriousness, that's been a really good opportunity to be able to do stuff like that and focus on the stuff that you need to get done, but don't necessarily always fit it into the schedule. That was a really good opportunity to do that. In addition, Amy, like you were saying, having the time you spend it at home, I'm working on painting the house right now. So something as simple as breaking up the monotony of work every day when finally April stunk weather-wise. But we've gotten some good days in May, and now I'm able to get out there and do that. So that takes 5-6 hours a day to do that, and suddenly you feel like you worked the full day, and it certainly helps your mental well-being, getting stuff done and feeling that sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, the weather having improved this month so far has been a tremendous help. April was brutal. It just was with all the rain.
There was no time to be outside, which a lot of times is what you really need to do. Exactly.
C.S. Eliot said April is the cruelest month. He didn't really even know how bad it could be.
Did he have a pandemic?
All right, that's great advice, Mike. Thank you for chiming in here. And we saved, I don't want to say the best for last, but Rob, you are next.
Spotlight. Okay. So I also said flexibility. So my business is actually called Flexible Office Space. So I sort of have to be flexible. And naturally it was the thing I picked in the poll. And I think that flexibility, first of all, there's a lot of overlap between a lot of these potential answers, right? I mean, flexibility, agility, creativity. I mean, a lot of these things sort of go together. I think Michael used the word adaptability. But those things, I think, they're an imperative in this era, right? It's a, you know, if anybody watched Charlie Baker's press conferences this week, he's unveiling a 4-phase reopening plan. It could not possibly be more vague. So we don't have real information to guide us on, you know, what our businesses are going to look like, what kind of business plan we can put in place. We really don't have a choice here. We have to stay really flexible and really agile and sort of make decisions day by day. But I think there's kind of an underlying personality trait, or I don't know if it's a personality trait, but there's an underlying trait that we all need to be employing here, which I think I can only really describe as confidence and courage, because it's fine to say, okay, we're flexible, we're gonna, you know, change the way we do things, but we also have to have the courage and the confidence to know that we can accomplish major changes in the way we look at our businesses. You know, and an example is, you know, I think I mentioned this last week, but just the idea of a restaurant going from being a sit-down, you know, high-end eat-in restaurant to becoming a takeout restaurant, that's a major change. And if, I think I mentioned this last time too, but they're great examples. In February at the Tech Council, we had a speaker on the topic of telemedicine, and the focus was on the difficulty of getting the established medical and insurance complex to embrace something like telemedicine, because it basically competes with, you know, the existing system, and how difficult that implementation would be. That was in February. In April, every insurance company in the country had embraced telemedicine, so it happened overnight. So the idea of looking at something and saying, we can't do that for all these reasons, clearly we can. So if you're looking at your own business and you're thinking about a change, a major change that you think needs to get made, and you're thinking, well, we can't do that, it's never been done before, the industry doesn't work that way, you know, we can't do it. Yes, you can. There's always a way. And I think so that's behind the flexibility, really needs to be that confidence and courage, is to find a way to make the flexibility work.
Yeah, I would agree. My background's in information systems, and one of the things that changed my life the most was, you know, I had a professor, his name is Dr. Shea. You know, he would always say things like, forget about what you can and can't do. What can we do, right? So don't say it can't be done. Like, how can we get one step closer? You know, how can we just completely throw out everything you know and just wave a magic wand? How could this happen? And then you start to apply the pieces of how it could happen. And I think, you know, desperation in my business career, desperation, and that's not always negative. Desperate could be, you know, something that you want, has really been a huge driver in getting to where I want to be. And difficult decisions have to be made sometimes along the way. And, you know, we get there, right? So the other thing I'm noticing, I'm seeing a lot of changes happen under the smoke of COVID-19, which is kind of interesting. People are making changes that are just like, well, you know, it seems like a good time to make this change. It's something I have to do, something I want to do. I'm going to do it now while everything's kind of up in the air. I see some of that happening too, which is kind of interesting.
Dale, I think what you just touched on there reminds me of it reminds me of GE. So I don't know if anybody's ever read Jack Welch's book or know about the system that was engineered by GE, which is, you know, used all over the world now, which is called Six Sigma. And Six Sigma was a quality control concept where, rather than take an existing process and try to improve it, you take the whole thing, you throw it out the window, and you reinvent it, you know, based on what you want. So, you know, based on what don't think about what you can and can do, think about what you should do.
Right.
And I think that, you know, I think we all can find examples in our lives where that's happened. I mean, I'll just throw a quick one. I think most people know that I'm a reformed accountant in my former life. That's what I did. And I remember a long time ago, I was working in a company and I just kind of took over a department. I took over in May and I sat down at my desk and the first thing that happened is the phone rang and it was a bank screaming at me that the financial statements were like 3 months late. And I said, what the hell's going on here? So I apparently this company had been routinely issuing their financial statements in like August. And so I just said, okay, we're not doing that anymore. And I pulled all the staff in. I said, okay, from now on, we're going to deliver our financial statements on February 15th. And everybody said, we can't do that. Well, guess what? You can. And we did. And that company still is to this day. That was 20 years ago. So it can be done. And everybody, if you look hard enough, you will find some example in your own life of something that, you know, you thought was not doable, that was completely doable.
Wow.
And I think, you know, I mean, if we
I'm
look
so
at our most
charged right now.
recent, yes, good. I think if we look at the largest disruption in our lifetimes, which may be 9/11, you know, you saw a lot. I was in banking at the time, and a lot of things that banks would have said, you know, it can't be done. We're not going to, you know, we can't do that. All of a sudden, it had to happen. And lo and behold, that happened. So, and I think, you know, for a tip for some people out there who, you know, as we start to look at it possibly reopening in phases, as vague as it has been laid out so far, I think, you know, if you do a Google alert on the topic of your business, you might be able to find some examples of what other businesses like yours have been doing in different parts of the country, whether it's in Italy or Wuhan or whatever, where they've had Spain shut down and has, you know, slowly started to reopen as well. They had a major outbreak. So I think if you start to look at how some of these businesses and what they're doing to, you know, protect themselves, you know, protect their workers, their customers and everything, if you start to look for some examples, you know, you might be able to find some guidance that maybe you hadn't thought of, you know, or hadn't seen in a publication somewhere. You know, it might be a true life. So, you know, they may have tried something and said, "Don't do that. You know, do this instead." So, I think that's
a very good point, Amy. And also, I would add to that. Don't be so quick to unsubscribe to emails you're getting, because a lot of the vendors out there are coming up, you know, basic products, services, coming up with a lot of innovative new things that might be able to help in this era. So I would not be so quick to delete and unsubscribe to emails that you think are spam, because they might actually contain something useful.
That's a great point. And at that, this is a great breaking point for us. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Dale. Great to be here.
Thanks,
Bye.
Dale.